Hello, this video is about the story Salvatore. Salvatore is the name of a man who was in love with a girl, and the girl, because of some situations, because of some real life issues, could not get married to Salvatore, had to say no. And how does Salvatore react to it, and how he gets out of that situation is a story about. So, in this video, we will study the chapter line by line. So, let us begin. The very first line, the author creates a difference between a common human being and Salvatore. The very first line says, "I wonder if I can be able to be like Salvatore." So the author creates a suspense that what is so special about this man, Salvatore. So at the end of the story, we will know that the special quality is goodness. That special quality is being very kind to everybody around. So Salvatore is, when the story begins, narrator is saying, he knew Salvatore when he was just a boy of 15. So the narrator says that he has known Salvatore since he was a small boy, a 15-year-old, with a very pleasant face, a very smiling face, and a laughing mouth, very calm and quiet, and had a carefree eyes. So these are the features that we have to keep in mind for writing the answer, that Salvatore is a boy of 15-year-old with a very kind face, loving mouth, and carefree eyes. He used to spend the morning lying about the beach with next to nothing. Means he was a small boy, and on the beach he used to lie with his brown body, which was as thin as rail. He was very thin. He was full of grace. Means he was full of kindness, love, care, concern. He was in and out of the sea all the time. So he used to jump into the sea, he used to swim, and he used to come back with his effortless, clumsy stroke common to all fisher boys. So he used to swim without any effort. It was very seemingly very easy for him. So Salvatore used to go into the swimming into the sea, and it was a very easy thing for him. So what is it there in the first paragraph? In the first paragraph, we come to know the age of Salvatore. He is a 15-year-old child, and he is very pleasant to in behavior. बहुत ही शांत और अच्छे स्वभाव का वो लड़का है. He has a carefree eyes. Now, very few people in this world, they have carefree eyes. They are all bogged down with so much of challenges of life. Salvatore is carefree even in his eyes. And they say in English, and it's probably true, that eyes is an index to soul. Eyes do not lie. So Salvatore always had a carefree eyes, and he was carefree. And a village boy, he was lying on the sea beach all the time and used to jump into the ocean, used to swim out and then again go into the water, again come out. Sometimes he used to lie on the beach with his brown body and as thin as rail. So this is the first paragraph. Then is the second paragraph about Salvatore's background. The physical description means the camera zoomed in the first paragraph. Now we come to know about Salvatore's background. Scrumbing up means climbing up the jagged rock, rough rock on the hard feet, for except on Sunday, he never wore shoes. So when he used to go to church, which was very significant for people living in villages, Salvatore used to wear shoes. At that time, most of the time, village boy, he never used to wear shoes. He would throw himself up in the deep water with a cry of delight. So he used to jump into the water and he used to shout, "Wow!" So he was really carefree. His father was a fisherman who owned little vineyard, and Salvatore acted as a nursemaid to his two brothers. So Salvatore's father was a fisherman who had a small vine जहाँ grapes उगते हैं, वैसा एक garden जैसा था जहाँ grapes लोग उगाते. Or Salvatore used to look after his two brothers. So the very first thing is Salvatore is carefree, very pleasant, full of grace, kindness, and very caring to his brother. मतलब सिर्फ नाम का ही वो मतलब pleasant नहीं था. Even in character he was very pleasant, and he was, the book says, he was a nursemaid to his brother. मतलब वो अपने भाई, दोनों भाई को बहुत देखभाल करता था. Very few people do nowadays. Salvatore acted as a nursemaid to his brother. He shouted to them to come inshore when they went out into the deep into the sea. जब वो लोग समुंदर में थोड़ा दूर पानी से चले जाते तो उससे से come 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 come, and he used to make them dress. It was time to climb the hot vineyard hill for the frugal midday meal. फिर वो ऊपर थोड़ा पहाड़ पे चलते जहाँ उनके पापा का वाइनयार्ड ट्री था, वहाँ वाइन के उस मतलब जहाँ वाइन उगता है ग्रेव्स, वहाँ वो थोड़ा फ्यूगल मतलब बहुत कम कुछ खाना मिलता. फ्यूगल मीन्स मिनिमम पॉसिबल मील खा के वो अपना जिंदगी गुजारते. तो क्या पता चला सल्वेटर के बारे में कि सल्वेटर जो है ये जूता वूता नहीं पहनता, गांव के बच्चे हैं. And used to jump into the ocean, and he was a caretaker of his two brother, and he was caring when they used to go into the sea. They used to call them back, and he had hardly anything extravagant to eat. जो खाना मिलता खा लेता. तो ये सल्वेटर का बैकग्राउंड. Then, but boy in those southern part grew apace. These village boys, they grow very fast. And he grew up from 15, ही थोड़ा और उसका एज हुआ. So he fell in love with a very beautiful girl who lived on that Grande Marina. They're all real places, real stories. She had eyes like forest pool. It was very deep. Her eyes was very beautiful, very deep. Forest pools, if you have ever gone to a forest and if you see the pool, it has its own beauty. So narrator fell in love with a girl. उस लड़की की आंखों को कंपेयर किया गया फॉरेस्ट के पूल से. And she held herself like the daughter of Caesar. So she behaved as if she is not an ordinary girl. She behaved as if she is a princess to a king. And Salvatore and that girl, they got engaged. But they could not marry till Salvatore had done his military service. So in those days, there was a system that anybody who used to, I mean, in those part of the country, एक system था कि if anybody wants to get married, he has to do few years of military or navy service, and with that certificate only he can get married. So according to the rules, Salvatore also cannot marry the girl until he fulfills his duty as a military man. तो उसको military का काम तो जाके करना ही पड़ेगा. So he had to join the military service. So Salvatore had to join the military service. So when he left the island, he had never left it before. So Salvatore had never left his village. He's never a small part of a village. ये कभी इस इलाके से कभी बाहर गया ही नहीं था. To become a sailor in the navy, at that time the king was King Victor Animal. So he had to leave his village and he had to join that ship, and he sailor का काम मैंने sailor को join करना पड़ा. And he wept like a child. ये गरीब गांव का बच्चा, ये कभी भी शहर गया नहीं है, गांव के सुनसान जगहों को छोड़ा नहीं है. So it was very difficult for him. It was emotionally a torture for him. But he had to go because that was a rule. So he wept like a child, and weeping is most of the time, not all the time, it's a sign of innocence. Very few people can childlessly weep, especially when they are grown up, because to open your heart needs a lot of courage. Salvatore can weep like a child even when he's grown up. It was hard for him. ये उसके लिए बहुत मुश्किल था कि गांव को छोड़ के, गांव के खेतों को छोड़ के, माँ बाप एंड बिलवेड को छोड़ के वहाँ अनजान नेवी में काम करना. He had never left the village, so it was very difficult for him. He had only seen birds. Okay. But now in the army, he has to be very disciplined. He has to be always at the beck of call of others. मतलब जब superiors बुला ले तो उसको जाना पड़ेगा. And in the village, he used to lie on the sea beach all the time, and he used to jump into the ocean and come back up. So ऐसा, he is a military man now. So it was very difficult for him. It was harder to live in the battleship strangers और अनजाने लोगों के साथ रहना, ये psychological problem. He has always been in the vineyard. Okay. And sometime he was beside the seashore, but he has never been in these noisy places. He has never been in these cities जहाँ लोग एक दूसरे को पहचानते नहीं हैं. In spite of being so crowded, कोई किसी को पहचानता नहीं है. He was frightened to cross the मतलब ये इतना भीड़ भाड़ में लोगों से घबराता. When he used, because he was habituated to silent parts and mountains and seas. ये तो आइलैंड में रहने वाला, पहाड़ों से बातें करने वाला, क्लाउड को देखने वाला, समुंदर में पानी में नहाने वाला. He had never experienced this city, hubbub and noise and confusion and hustle bustle. Narrator is saying, I suppose it had never struck him, the place where he lives, which he looked at every evening to see whether it could be like next day. So when narrator is saying कि जब साल्वाटर अपने गांव में रहता था तो उसको हर दिन एक जैसा ही लगता था. He never observed it कभी dawn में. He just used to enjoy being in the lap of the nature. But when he ceased to have them, मतलब जब इसी गांव से, इसी खलियान से, इसी मतलब विलेज से वो चला गया, तब इसको ये जगह बहुत ज्यादा याद आने लगा. When he stopped to have these beautiful places, he realized in some dim fashion that they were as part of him as his hand and feet. So the narrator is saying Salvatore, when he went to the city life was very difficult for him. Then suddenly he realized these mountains, this nature, this snowfall, this sea beach was a part of him, and he was a part of that village. मतलब वो गांव, वो खलियान उसके जिंदगी का एक हिस्सा था. He did not realize it when he was in the village. He did realize it when he went to the city as an army man. That this river, mountain, fountains, they are a part of him. He was dreadfully homesick. इसको बहुत dreadfully means horribly. He was missing his home, his mother, his parents, his sisters, his beloved. But the hardest part, the most difficult part for Salvatore was that he was away from his beloved, the girl to whom he was engaged to be married. He wrote to her in a childlike, ill spelled wrong handwriting, wrong spelling. He used to write long, long letters to his beloved, that how much he really loved her. He was sent there to a place called Venice, then he was sent to another place, means promotion hota raha and transfer hota raha. He went to Bari, then he went to China, and he went to many, many places. So when he went to China, he fell ill. वो बीमार हो गया. And when Salvatore fell ill, he was in the hospital for a few months. He bore it up with mute and uncomprehensive patience. वो एकदम चुपचाप, मतलब ऐसा खामोश कि उसको कोई समझ ही नहीं पाया. चुपचाप, जैसे कुत्ते को कभी कोई मार दो, चुपचाप ऐसा रहता. Salvatore accepted everything mutely and without any complaining. So when he was in the hospital for a very long time, there he realized that he was suffering from a disease called rheumatism. ये एक बीमारी है, it's the name of a disease that made him unfit for any further service. So he was declared that he is not fit for doing the work in the army because he is suffering from a disease called rheumatism. So his heart felt very glad. Instead of becoming sad, instead of becoming frustrated that he is losing his job, he felt very happy. Because then he realized he can go back to the village, to the mountains, to the rivers, and he can lie down on the beach and he can meet his beloved. He can again go back to his family. So instead of feeling sad when he learned that he is suffering from rheumatism, he became very happy. For now he can go home. And all this did not bother. In fact, he scarcely listened. Doctor ka baat to suna nahi. When the doctor told him that he would never be quite well again, what did he care? उसको ऐसा परवाह नहीं था कि हम ठीक होंगे कि नहीं, बस घर जाना था उसको. He was going back home to his island where he loved so well, and the girl was waiting for him. He thought that the girl was waiting for him. So he was removed from the army. He was removed from the army because he was suffering from rheumatism. He went from one place to another as a transferable job in the army. So at last, when he went to China, there he developed a disease called rheumatism, because of which it was declared that he cannot be in the army anymore. So he went back. When he got into the boat to come back to the place, he saw his father. So वो boat से steamer से अपने island में वापस आया. He saw his father, his mother, and all on waiting on the jetty. Jetty means जहाँ से boat पे लोग चढ़ के जाते हैं. So he's all big boys now. He waved up to them. So he kissed all his father, mother, and sisters and everybody. But he could not see the girl he was engaged to. He could not see the girl that he was in love with. There was a great deal of kissing when he jumped up. And he was very emotional. He cried a little bit and he said goodbye. And he hugged everybody and said, "I'm happy to be back." He asked where the girl was. So Salvatore ने इधर उधर देखा, then he said, "So the girl I'm engaged to, वो कहाँ है?" His mother told him that she did not know. They had not seen him for 2-3 weeks. So मम्मी और घर के लोग बोल दिए कि वो लड़की तो 2-3 हफ्ता से हम लोग देखे ही नहीं है, पता ही नहीं हम लोगों को. They had not seen him for 2 or 3 weeks. So in the evening, when the moon was shining, शाम का मौका था, moon sun मतलब moon का धीरे वो calm and quite light Naples, it's a very beautiful place. चारों तरफ grande marina में फैला था. So this man Salvatore went to that girl. She was sitting on the doorstep with her mother. She was little shy because after a long time they're meeting. So she did not know what to say and he did not know what to say. But then the conversation started. So Salvatore asked that girl to whom he was engaged that did she not receive the letter that he has written to her? She said, yes, they have received the letter and they have even known that he has fallen ill. Yes, that was, so he is happy. He says, yes, I'm happy that I'm ill, so I'm with you. I've come back to my family and to you. But it was not a good luck. So was it a good piece of luck that Salvatore has fallen ill? But they had heard that he would never be quite well again. So Salvatore के बारे में ये खबर पूरा गांव में, छोटा सा शहर है, छोटा सा गांव है, छोटा सा आइलैंड है. सो एवरीबडी हैज नोन दिस दैट सैल्वाटर को अब कोई काम वाम वो नहीं कर सकता. द डॉक्टर हैज टोल्ड दिस एंड द बॉयज हैव टोल्ड, मतलब खबर चारों तरफ फैल गया. बट दे हैड हर्ड दैट ही वुड नेवर बी क्वाइट वेल अगेन. सबको पता चल गया है कि सैल्वाटर जो है पहले ऐसा कामकाज नहीं कर सकता. द डॉक्टर टॉक्ड अ लॉट ऑफ नॉनसेंस. डॉक्टर ऐसे सबको बोलते रहता, सब खबर फैल गया. So even before he was home, the news that Salvatore cannot be able to work के खबर पहले ही पहुंच गया. So they were silent for a moment. Then the mother nudged the girl. तो मम्मी बोली बोल. So the girl did not try to soften the blow. मतलब वो आए बाएं साएं करके घुमा फिरा के नहीं बोली. She hit the point hard. She was very blunt. So she told him straight. वो उसको डायरेक्टली बोल दी विद वेरी ब्लंट डायरेक्टनेस. मतलब ओपनली, बिना कोई सॉफ्टनेस के, बिना कोई मतलब उसको डाइल्यूट किए, कंसंट्रेटेड वे में बोल दी. क्या बोली? That she could not marry a man who would not be able to walk like a man again. तो वो लड़की जिससे सैल्वाटर का एंगेजमेंट हुआ था, वो सैल्वाटर को बोल दी कि लिसन, I can't marry you because my parents will not allow me to marry a person who is not able to walk again, and you have got a disease called rheumatism, so it's not possible for me to get married to you. So the girl openly said, we have decided, my family and we have all decided that I am not going to be married to Salvatore, to you. They had made up the mind, his mother and father, and the father would never give consent. So the father will never give permission for the marriage of her own daughter to a person who is not able to again work like a common human being. So when Salvatore went home, he found they all knew. Salvatore जब घर गया, तो when he looked at everybody's faces, he understood कि सबको, मम्मी पापा दीदी सबको, सब बने गांव के लोगों को सबको सब पता था. But they were trying not to tell him so quickly and they were trying to avoid the topic. The girl father had told them all what they had decided, but they had lacked the courage to tell him. So घर के लोगों ने अभी तक सैल्वाटर को ये बात बताया नहीं था कि इसका एंगेजमेंट टूट चुका है और वो लड़की से शादी नहीं करेगी. He wept on the mother's bosom. So he hugged his mother and he cried on the mother's bosom, on the mother's heart. He was terribly unhappy because he loved her genuinely and he thought that they will be married. And he had probably made a dreamland of his own, but now his dreams shattered. So he was terribly unhappy. But he did not blame the girl. I wish I can write, say, 10 minutes on this, but the time would not allow. He was terribly unhappy but did not blame the girl. It's a very rarest probably the quality few people have in a modern world when a girl says no and they do not blame the girl. This is what makes him hero. This is what makes him a human being above all of us. This is why the narrator wrote in the beginning of the story, I wish I could be like him. Not because he had six-pack, not because he was a billionaire or millionaire, not because he was Mark Zuckerberg, not because he was Elon Musk, but because in the moment of crisis, he has chosen forgiveness over revenge. He has chosen to understand the other girl without any grudge. So here, he was terribly sad, terribly disappointed, but he did not blame the girl because he understood. A fisherman life is hard and it needs endurance. Fisherman, उसको आके तो fisherman ही बनना था और fisherman बनने के लिए ताकत चाहिए, और Salvatore is suffering from rheumatism, so he would not be able to work hard again like a common human being. So he can see it from the perspective of the girl, that if I would be in the place of the girl, this would be very practical, this would be very obvious. But at the moment of emotion, when the emotion clouds us, very few people can think it from the other's perspective. It is but obvious, but almost everybody in this kind of situation would react, but he responds. And this is what makes him a hero. This is what makes him a protagonist. This is what makes him a superhuman being without having the qualities of Iron Man or Marvel series heroes. He was terribly unhappy, but he did not blame the girl. This is why this story is in our syllabus. Sometimes we would be terribly happy, but we should not blame the others. Because any moment you blame others, you give them your own keys of happiness. You give the command to them. So fisherman life is hard. So Salvatore understood कि लड़की को blame करके फायदा नहीं है. कोई भी लड़की होती तो यही करती, और अगर काम हम ना कर पाए तो कोई भी लड़की ना ही बोल देगी. इतना समझदारी ब्रेकअप के वक्त. Hats up to Salvatore. He knew very well that a girl could not afford to marry a man who would not be able to support him. काम काज करेगा नहीं तो ठीक ही किया वो. ये Salvatore समझ रहा है. His smile was very sad. So now वो अब हंसता था, लेकिन उसके हंसी में एक अजब सा दुख, एक अजब सा पेन, एक अजब सा मायूसी था. He did not complain, and he never said a single word about that girl to anybody in whole life. This is what I wish we all could aspire to become like. The girl said not to him, but he did not. He forgave the girl from the core of the heart, and from the tip of his tongue, he never said she is a slut, she is a bitch, she is a prostitute, and so on and so forth. He did not complain about that girl. So he did not say a single word about the girl he loved so well. So few months later, अब ऐसे दिन चलता रहा, कुछ महीने, बहुत सारे महीने हुए. Then थोड़ा दुख कम हुआ. He settled down to do his common fisherman का job. उसके पापा को वो grapes का वो garden था, तो उसमें वो काम करने लगा. His mother, like all mother, told him कि बेटा आप किसी और से शादी कर ले. वो तो ना बोल दी. The girl said no, try to find somebody else. So the mother, they always come with a proposal, and he has the same mother, like all mother. She has come with a proposal of a girl. उस लड़की, महान लड़की का नाम है Asunta. So the boy said, "अरे मम्मी, she is ugly like a devil." Salvatore said, "Mother, you're asking me to marry that girl. वो तो एकदम चुड़ैल की तरह, डायन की तरह गंदी दिखती है." So ये girl Salvatore से बहुत बड़ी है. And she was already engaged to marry, मतलब that girl Asunta was already engaged to be married to somebody else. लेकिन वो आदमी मर ही गया अफ्रीका में वॉर में, तो उसको भी किसी न किसी से शादी करना है. Salvatore को भी किसी न किसी से शादी करना है. So second shadi.com type ये चलेगा. Salvatore wanted to marry that girl. She said no. This girl wanted to marry somebody. That person died. So this girl Asunta, वो उसके पास कुछ पैसा था, तो अगर Salvatore से शादी करेगी तो बोट खरीद लेगी, ये फिशरमैन होगा. फिर थोड़ा दिन वो अपने पापा के वाइन यार्ड में काम करेगा. तो ऐसे करके फिशरमैन प्लस वाइन यार्ड में काम धाम चल जाएगा. इट्स अ वेरी वेल कैलकुलेटेड मैरिज प्रपोजल. लड़की सोची कि इसके पास तो वाइन यार्ड है, मेरे पास पैसा, उससे बोट खरीद लेंगे, वो फिशिंग करेगा और ऐसे घर चलेगा. सो दिस इज व्हाट शी प्लान्ड. And they also had a small room which was without a tenant. So his mother told him that Asunta had seen him. Asunta Salvatore को कभी कोई fiesta में देखी थी, and she had liked him and fallen in love with him. Salvatore smiled his sweet smile. Salvatore always used to smile. Most people do not do nowadays. They only send LOL. However, this Salvatore had a genuine smile. On the following day, on the Sunday, जब चर्च में लड़का लड़की सब प्रेयर होता है, तो Salvatore बोला मम्मी को, ठीक है मम्मी, हम एक बार देख के आते हैं. So he went there in that old rugged shirt, बिना कोई सजे धजे, वही पुराना. ओके. तो वो लड़की को देख के एक जगह खड़ा होकर देखा दूर से, जहाँ खाई जगह से जहाँ सब कुछ दिखता था. And he saw Asunta, and then he came to his mother and said, ठीक है माँ, I will marry Asunta. Ugly as hell, I will marry. किसी न किसी शादी करना, anybody would do. So at last, Salvatore decided that he would marry Asunta. Well, they were married and they settled down in a teeny whitewash house. उनका शादी हो गया, एक छोटा सा चूना का कलर करके एक छोटा सा वाइन, मतलब इन द मिडिल ऑफ दैट वाइन यार्ड, जहाँ उनका पाप मतलब एक वाइन का ग्रेप्स का गार्डन था, वहीं वो लोग रहने लगे. Salvatore now has become very big, husky fellow. थोड़ा बॉडी हो गया उसका, भारी आवाज हो गया. He has become very tall and broad with a very ingenious and original smile and very thrusting and kinding eyes. He had as a boy. मतलब बचपन में जिसके पास kind और caring eyes थे, अभी भी हैं. He had the most beautiful manners that I've ever seen in my life. So this is the line that you need to quote in the answer. Narrator is saying that Salvatore had the best manners that narrator has seen in all his life. On the other hand, उसकी जो बीवी है, एक ही बीवी हो तो पहली वाली से said no. So the next girl whom he is forced to marry, the ugly as hell, she is a very grim-faced female. मतलब हमेशा गुस्सीली, चिड़चिड़ाईपन रहती है. Salvatore's wife is a very rough kind of woman with a very decided features. मतलब उसका features, behavior कुछ एकदम fixed type था. And she was very elderly looking. But she was also good at heart and she was no fool. वो सोच रही थी इससे हमको ये मिलेगा, हमको ये मिलेगा. Debit credit kind of transactional mentality she had. I used to be amused by the little smile of devotion she gave her husband. So narrator is saying कि वो अपने husband से बहुत devoted थी और बहुत अच्छे से बात करती थी, तो narrator को अच्छा लगता था. So narrator is saying कि Salvatore had a masculine and masterful appearance and she was very happy with him. And he was touched by the sweetness. तो ये मियाँ बीवी husband wife का काम चलता रहा. But she could not bear who had thrown him the withstanding. So कभी भी Salvatore की जो ये बीवी है सुनता, इसको गुस्सा आता था कि उस पहली वाली Salvatore को ना कैसे बोलती. I mean, how could she behave so badly to him? But Salvatore never said anything. Salvatore smiling exposition मतलब behavior had nothing but very good. मतलब Salvatore कभी भी rough rude नहीं हुआ. और फिर कुछ साल बाद Salvatore had 2 kids. बट सेल्वेटर का जिंदगी बहुत मुश्किल था क्योंकि फिशरमैन का लाइफ बहुत हार्ड वर्किंग लाइफ होता है. एंड देन ही हैज टू वर्क इन दैट, क्या बोलते हैं उसको, ग्रेव गार्डन, मतलब जहाँ ग्रेव्स टी उगता है, वाइनयार्ड. सो दिस इज वेरी चैलेंजिंग वर्क. ऑल थ्रू फिशिंग सीजन टुवर्ड्स द इवनिंग ही शटर्ड हिज बोट विद हिज ब्रदर्स और ये फिशिंग करता. ही यूज्ड टू पुल लॉन्ग 6 or 7 miles वहां तक जाके फिशिंग करके और कैटल फिश मैंने वो फिश जो बिक्री का था वो लाता. Then there was a long row back again in order to sell. फिर उसको सेल करने पड़ना जाता, लाना पड़ता, फिर बाजार जाके बेचना पड़ता. So he used to do his level best to work hard. At other time he was working in the vineyard. तो जब vineyard में काम करता, जब मतलब फिशिंग का सीजन नहीं होता, तब वो अपने वो पापा का जो ग्रेप्स का वो गार्डन था उसमें वो काम करता. और जब थक जाता तो टू रेस्ट when it was at cooler at the dusk. So जब सुबह सुबह थोड़ा ठंड होता तो रेस्ट लेता. जब रूमेटिज्म बहुत ज्यादा दुखने लगता उसके हड्डी में तो भी वो रेस्ट लेता. और पासर भाई बोलते अरे the foreigners who would come to that place used to think that he is a very lazy man, but he was not a lazy man. He was suffering from rheumatism. Sometime he used to bring his children down to give them bath. कभी अपने बच्चे को वो समुद्र के किनारे वो लाता, वहाँ उन लोग को नहलाता. They were both boys and the elder was 3 and the younger was 2. तो एक 3 साल का बच्चा था और एक 2 साल का बच्चा. They sprawled around the water से, तो वो ना पानी के किनारे किनारे वो लोग छप 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 करते. Salvatore standing on the rock would dim them. वो एक बड़ा सा बोल्डर में खड़ा होकर बच्चा लोग को पानी में से पकड़ पकड़ के डिप कर देता. The elder one bore it. ठंडा लगता, elder one चुपचाप सह लेता, younger one रोने लगता. Salvatore had enormous hand. Okay, वेरी कोर्स एंड रफ हैंड. काम कर करके हाथ पैर उसका एकदम रफ हो गया. But used to bath the children with very delicate care, very lovingly, used to hold them tenderly. Okay, used to behave with them as if they are flowers. He would sit the naked boy on the palm, उसको फिर वो कपड़ा से पोंछता, and he always had a smile. Okay, his eyes always had that candid as a child. मतलब उसके आंख में अभी भी वो बच्चे जैसा बचपना था. Salvatore was good to his child. Salvatore was good to the 2 brothers. Salvatore was good to his family. Salvatore was good to the girl who said no to him. So whoever came in Salvatore's circle, Salvatore is good to anybody. If I would be in probably Salvatore's neighborhood, he would be good to me. Salvatore goodness is not dependent on Asunta or the girl or mother or father. His goodness is dependent on him. So narrator is now ending the chapter and he's saying, I started by saying, I wonder if I could do it. So narrator is saying, आपको मैंने पहले लाइन में बताया था ना कि मैं शायद ऐसा नहीं बन सकता. कैसा? Salvatore जैसा caring, Salvatore जैसा forgiving, Salvatore जैसा candid smile, वो भोलापन, वो मासूमियत, वो naive. Narrator is saying, I probably cannot be like it. So narrator is saying, I must tell you, as I've tried to tell you, I wanted to see whether I could hold your attention for a few pages. So narrator is saying कि कुछ पन्ने मैंने आपको यहाँ रोक के रखा ये बताने के लिए कि देखिए मैंने एक पोर्ट्रेट बनाया. I have created an image of a man, an ordinary fisherman who possesses nothing in the world except the quality that is the rarest, that is the loveliest. मतलब आजकल उसके पास कोई स्पेशल ह्यूमन क्वालिटी नहीं है. वो साउथ इंडियन हीरो की तरह बाहुबली नहीं है. बाहुबली और कटप्पा की तरह कोई फाइटिंग स्किल्स नहीं है. He is an ordinary fisherman who has a very rarest of rare quality, that is being kind. Heaven only knows how he could be having such a great quality without realizing he has it. मतलब सैल्वाटोर के पास ये भोलापन, ये मासूमियत, ये kindness, ये caring quality है, but he does not realize it, and he is not proud of it since he does not realize it. All I know is that it was shining in his eyes. उसके आंखों में वो चमक था, वो radiance, वो look था, and he is very humble. He is not even aware that he has its good quality. So that would have been common run of man hardly bearable. मतलब ये आम लोग में आजकल हार्डली है. एंड इन केस नाइटर इज सेइंग कि अगर अभी तक आप समझे नहीं कि वो रेयर क्वालिटी क्या है, उसके अंदर क्या रेडियंस है, क्या वो अनकॉन्शियस अपने क्वालिटी के तरह है, तो नाइटर इज स्पेसिफिकली यूजिंग द वर्ड इज सेइंग कि उस आदमी के अंदर द क्वालिटी दैट नाइटर इज टॉकिंग अबाउट इज गुडनेस. The goodness in general terms means being very loving, kind, and caring. So this is true for Salvatore. This is true for Salvatore. Salvatore was not a superhuman being, but he was loving. And he was not loving like most of us do. We are also loving, but we are loving to somebody. And we are hateful to somebody. Salvatore was loving irrespective of who came into his life. His loving was confirmed who came into his life, that was optional, that was variable. His goodness was constant. So Salvatore is a story about a man who does not break under problem, but who break record of being kind and caring and loving. Somebody was right when he said, when nature hammers you, if you're made of glass, you break, but if you're made of iron, you do not. Salvatore from inside, of course, he cried, but he did not become negative. He did not revolt. He did not take revenge. He did not take uh, the girl in a negative way, and he did not say a single word for her in a negative way. There's a line in the book which says that throughout the story, throughout the life, Salvatore ने उस लड़की के बारे में कभी भी कुछ गलत नहीं बोला. So, and Salvatore has many other qualities that we'll discuss in details. Thank you for watching the video, and if you have found this video of any meaning, of any help, so please share it with people and subscribe to this channel. And if you have any question, please write it in the comment box. Thank you.